Hello, and welcome to Screenworks. I'm John Uriarte, curator of digital programs at the Photographers Gallery. Screenworks is a collaborative program by Fotomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland and the Photographers Gallery in London with the support of Pro Helvetia. Screenworks is a series of online streams led by artists who perform guided explorations of the places where their core artistic practice takes place. Since we started in April 2020, every event has taken a different format that can sit in between a performance, a lecture, a workshop, and a conversation. The artists, curators, and researchers that we have invited have taken us to online marketplaces, virtual worlds, social media, dating platforms, video games, corporate geographies, 3D modeling programs, CCTV cameras, among so many other places. This stream will last around an hour. If you are joining us on Zoom, your microphone should be muted. If not, please go ahead and mute it now. And just to let you know that this event is being recorded and will be archived. So if you don't want to be recorded, please turn off your camera. You can check all our previous screenworks on screenworks.com.
Hello from me too. My name is Marco De Mutis, and I'm digital curator at Fotomuseum Winterthur in Switzerland. Tonight, we will take a look at some of the most popular spaces of online image exchange. We will specifically be looking at the tensions between the corporate and restricted spaces of online platforms and the collective networked force that users can generate when acting together. On one side, we have witnessed the rise of algorithmically controlled regimes of representations with quantification of social capital through metrics, standardization of aesthetics, and the creation of an economy of attention that shapes the way certain images become more successful than others. On the other hand, we often forget that behind all these platforms, users remain an essential part of these systems with power to organize and potentially retake control of these spaces and of collective expression. With minimal and subtle gesture, as we will see in a moment, users can collectively intervene and infiltrate different images and spaces, making their voice heard, inserting politics or poetry, and disrupting the conventional paths and expected behaviors of platform of media exchange and social interaction. Tonight, we are honored to have with us Constant Dullaart, an artist who has been investigating such tensions in his practice through a number of always sharp works, conceptual, performative, disruptive, playful, and provocative in nature. Constant Dullaart's works reflect on the broad cultural and social effects of communication and image processing technologies, from distributing artificial social capital on social media to completing a staff pick Kickstarter campaign for a hardware startup called Dullaart. His work includes websites, performances, routers, installations, startups, and manipulated found images, as well as armies, frequently juxtaposing or consolidated technically dichotomized presentation realms. Constant told us that through the years, many people have asked him to be part of his army, and tonight on Screenworks, he will offer you the chance to be one of his soldiers. So after presenting his works, those of you who want to be part of Constant's army will be able to join the recruitment program. There will be a few tests, and if you pass them, you will make it into his army. All you will need is an Instagram account. So if you want to participate and do not have Instagram, go ahead and sign up to Instagram now. Who would have thought I would have ever pronounced those words? Okay, so that's all from me, and we can't wait to start. So Constant, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. The screen is yours.
Wonderful, thank you. I hope everybody can hear me, and if so, I would like this. Yes, I saw a nod, so I'm assuming everything is okay. Thank you so much for the invitation to talk to you from my home, to see all these faces staring in squares to me. I am gonna guide you through a bunch of steps in the first half hour, like how I came to this kind of concept of like working with the networked audience, or with, let's say, the networked image and its audience as material, and how I consider that an artistic material, or why I came to see that as an artistic material. So let me just kick off the screen share. So, of course, I'm going to start with this. This is the image Jennifer in Paradise. It's the first photoshopped image, actually first photoshopped photograph that I tracked down and then made public. But I would like to actually tap into an earlier presentation that I saw from Penelope and Rico that I really enjoyed that presentation, although it was very nerve-wracking to see the file structure. But like, yeah, I don't know. But I would like to kind of step slightly before how I came to this, how I found this like first kind of well, basically found image, and how I became aware that the context of the found image could become my my medium. So let me see. Hold on. Yeah, so I hope you see the video playing. I don't know if the sound is, if there's a light buzz in the background. Anyway, so this is a collection of, specifically I wanted to show this because this is actually around 2004, I started to collect these videos. Can you hear this sound? Can you hear like a background sound now?
Constant, I can still only see Jennifer's image. I don't know if it's just me, but can you try again?
Did you say something? Sorry, I couldn't hear it.
I still see Jennifer in Paradise image only. I can't see any video nor hear any sound.
Okay. So, do you see another video now?
No.
Okay. So, do you see a change of images now?
No, I think maybe is Keynote still.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that you have to stop. Yeah, that's it.
Yes.
Okay, now you see a video, hopefully. Thanks for the feedback. See, do you see, yeah, it's slightly moving? No?
No. No, it's, I see only functional video written on the image, but it's static. It's not moving.
So now you see it?
No.
Just give me, no, there's no, because then I just quit.
Yes, so I'm just waiting to see if there's any lag, maybe. No.
No, I cannot see it. It's frozen.
Okay, okay, great. So this is great. So that means there's something wrong with in general with Keynote, playing video. Can you just see the screen now? Like, can you just see it with my whole thing?
Yeah, we see the whole presentation of the Keynote now.
Yeah. Okay. So then I just do it like this.
Yes, we see that. Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Okay. So, so what I wanted to do is, because I wanted to, I basically graduated art school as a video artist, and it became important to me to the internet became important to me. I'm distracted by all the technical things. Let me explain it to you properly. So I saw that I graduated from a video department, and then everybody had to have like a really expensive camera and an expensive tripod to be able to show their work on TV. There was no real publication online. And as soon as the web was starting to allow video, or it was easier to upload video, of course, there was some kind of democratization of this kind of aesthetics of the medium video. And I particularly liked it when people were actually filming the stuff they were selling on secondhand websites, just like eBay or Craigslist or these kind of things. So the same kind of aesthetic. But what I really liked is that the video had this kind of voyeuristic documentation too. So it had this. So I really like the fact that there was this overlap in the practice that of like of one of the other presentations. So you also of course see that. So then, so this is, for example, a person selling their house. So they actually film their view, but you have people selling their sofa, selling their children's toys, selling a microwave. So it becomes very absurd. It was also the possibility of the medium kind of trick people into doing this, like as if an image wouldn't be enough. They had to record or use the functionality of the video. This video, for example, becomes very creepy because you hear the children's music, you would think like what happened to the child at the background, but they're already selling these things. And it's all these kind of scenes without people in them, just because you of course still see the things, you see that it's being used, you see the traces of the people, but it also became something very, I started to see it as scenes of a movie, but then shot without this expensive camera, shot without this expensive tripod. And it had like an honesty because it just had a function. To me, this was, for example, brilliant cinematic shot. It takes way too long, and it's just there to document that this thing actually folds in. And it had this honesty that was what it was doing. Like, there's nothing more. There wasn't any pretentiousness to it. And this, for me, was like just coming out of art school was a breath of fresh air. It was just an automatically opening sunbed. So this continues, and I have a huge collection of these, but I'll spare you watching through all these products from 2004, although I do think it becomes a kind of nice, almost like anthropological view into Dutch secondhand goods, as in like you could study what people were selling, or like how even people were thinking of documenting things. So for example, this is beautiful. This is documenting a car, but basically the only thing you see is that it drives slowly and it manages to take a corner. Anyway, moving on, I started to actually collect this kind of video a lot, but then I started to buy up secondhand VHS tapes in the year after. And then I started to collect these VHS tapes and found footage. And the nice thing was that I managed a kind of little trick to be able to see that I could also use them. And this was, for example, a collection of people trying out the camera and trying out certain effects on their tapes. And I really, even that kind of had the same kind of honesty to me. so funny, this lady that's left in this bar in the image. And it became really nice to kind of interpret this footage or interpret these images even from a different perspective than what they were intended to. So but still the honesty of just the pure functionality that it had was this breath of fresh air. And with that eye, I was looking at images, like what kind of alibi did the image have? Like, did it have an alibi? Was it already in function for something else, or was it just in function for the kind of aesthetic pleasure or this kind of thing? And that leads up to the whole idea of Jennifer in Paradise too, because I was looking for these images that basically had this other function. It had a functionality already, but you could also interpret it differently. And I was really fascinated with the culture behind a tool like Photoshop, because it adds a kind of power of manipulation to depiction, to mechanical depiction, and then you actually have that informed by a culture. Like, who are the people behind it? Who are the people that thought of certain names? And I was, for example, fascinated with, in Photoshop, there's a filter called the healing brush. And I was fascinated with that because that suggests that there's something that is unhealed or pre-healed, which basically means sick. So you would have sick images. So you would have healed images and sick images. So if you have that suggestion, you allow that kind of semantic approach to an image, you have a certain value system that you apply to it too. So to me, of like kind of speculating on these kind of value systems, I was like trying to figure out like who is behind it, which person is behind it, and what kind of culture are they from. And of course, I learned a lot by studying that, but then knowing about the Knoll brothers that made Photoshop, actually, I mean, purely, well, quite quickly, I would say that Thomas was maybe the more technical person who was fiddling around and was really interested in photography, was trying to, like, already found edges of parts of images and knew how to detect things inside images. And then John was working for George Lucas on Industrial Light and Magic, I think it, anyway, for George Lucas DreamWorks, or anyway, what kind of company was at that time. And he found out that, like, while working on all these special effects, it would be great if that would be released for a general customer and the general audience. So that's what they worked on. In principle, it's brilliant, of course. But then finding the first image that they demoed the software with, to me, it became quite particular. Like, so it had to me already this kind of beautiful alibi, like the first image they demoed it with. And for them, or for John, who picked this image, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful gesture because actually it was I found this out all later, but like it was taken the day before he asked Jennifer, who's in the image, to marry him. And she had said yes, and they were on a holiday and they were in Bora Bora. But of course, I'm also reading it from the perspective of, this is the ultimate white person's holiday. Like this white person going to the tropics, this kind of like post-colonial view where she's semi-nude and where she's objectified. And in the history of photography, like, you don't see who it is, like you could potentially take the head off, like all of these connotations of like viewing it in the history of photography came to mind. And then seeing the first demo that they did is actually selecting her body and then copying her. So actually really like making her into an object. And I think this was, to me, quite remarkable that it was like, so it had this beautiful alibi, but it also had this problematic structure. And it was actually, it had been removed, or it had never been in the public eye, because it was, all of this had taken place before the web was there, before there was this big distribution of images. So it wasn't apparent to people, and I could actually then release it. Like, I found this image in a video and I restored it from parts of the video using Photoshop, of course, and then put everything together. And then I had this image and I thought, like, this is important for people to see that was this first image, just like it's important to see other things that were first inside a medium. And so it was interesting to kind of study these values and what informed the kind of first aesthetic choices within a medium. And just like early video art or whatever. But then having that image and then realizing, like, okay, the first gesture, what they did is actually give that power of commodifying this female body, or actually objectifying that female body, making it into an object that they could just clone and they could just like have multiple of, and then giving that power to a relationship to basically to their client, and saying, like, if you give me money, I will give you the power, such as replicating my wife. And this is something, to me, which was a very intense gesture. But seeing that you could tell that story and you could actually make a romantic notion of that story and see how we relate as consumers of that software, but also consumers of a world where all of these values are changing, and like image manipulation is changing how we view our bodies, to how we view the news, to whatever. It was kind of interesting to figure out, like, okay, so if I create this romantic notion of like this person sitting on the edge of the land on this beach, then, you know, she was also sitting on the cusp of like a major change, on like on the edge of a major change in the perception of mechanical depiction, and seeing if like mechanical depiction or photography, if that, how truthful that would be, you know, like if you would always be able to figure out like, was this manipulated or not? And this whole discourse that I think a lot of people are well aware of course. So to me, telling that story became quite remarkable. And then seeing like how to distribute that image and distribute that way of thinking led to several different types of work. So for example, within the, oh, this video doesn't even play, that's funny. So within the image, I actually hid like cryptographic, like there's a technique for that, but like within the file type, I hid like a secret message. And to me, that was the same as like using invisible ink and writing on the back of a photograph. Like the medium, the carrier of the image also contained something else. So actually, if you, so for example, there's a museum that actually bought the work, but they bought actually a password to a file that's commonly distributed online. That's actually the file that I restored. There's multiple copies of it wandering online. But if you take it through a particular type of software and you use the password that they had then purchased, you actually get a text that I hid in there as a kind of, well, as a kind of proof. And I would do that in performances. So for example, in this beautiful video that doesn't work, there's like, I painted it with UV paint on this large rendition of the photograph, and then I would use a UV light and actually read the text to the audience, and then smash the UV light afterwards. Because I wanted to lock the image again. I wanted to lock the access to the image and wanted to be password protected again. The only thing I found out later that like, you know, if you break a UV light, there's quite a lot of like poisonous metals coming into the air. So I only did that 5 times. Anyway, so you see, I think here you see the smashed lights. And I made all these different versions. This was actually seen in London. I made like kind of very glitchy wallpapers where Jennifer's body goes all sides and to all places. And basically, to me, exemplifying this kind of the enormitude of the gesture of like kind of like you know, making that body or sculpting that body into a material and that initial gesture. So I took the most extreme filter I knew with this liquefy filter and just like kind of brushed it to all sides. And these are those presentations. And this is actually Jennifer. I'm just wondering if you could just give me a visual signal if this is like full screen, if this is still working, and then also do the switches still work if I switch from one image to another? Like, do you see that I'm switching between? No. Okay, so there's something wrong with Keynote. I'll just run it like this. So you see a part of the, anyway, this is Jennifer at the time that I made the work. So that would be, and also 2014, 15. No, earlier. I don't even know these things anymore. So anyway, she was there and she's on Twitter. She met like, she like made a beautiful career, but she's like again in front of this island. So that was like a beautiful reference. But then there was an article in The Guardian, which actually tempted the journalist actually managed to get the image from John Knoll. And actually the original image was then released through The Guardian. And to me, that made the whole loop, you know, I wanted this image to be part of like a public conscious. I wanted this image to belong to everybody. It wasn't clear to everybody. I had then pushed it into the public debate, and then now it was officially released. So this was the highest quality that could be released. And it was, to me, it was beautiful to see, but it also, there was a funny references like how, I actually wrote a really romantic letter to Jennifer that I wanted to be, you know, I wondered like how she related to being in that image and how she thought about it. But in the end, I never got like a reply from her. It was only John, her husband, like his project, Photoshop. Like I never got a reply from her. I'm still interested to speak to her. The only reply was that I, you know, to the journalist, I'd said like I had a fantasy to invite them back to that place and then reshoot the photograph. And within the letter, I said like if I had a fantasy that I would sit next to her. And I think that was kind of like too inappropriate. There was like because she's half nude and I would be next to her, and I never considered that that would be inappropriate. I just thought like, never anyway. So she said like, oh, that won't be, you know, that will never happen. So that's clear. But anyway, to me, why I wanted to start with this is like, and wanted to make this clear is that I understood that I could change the reading of an image. So maybe the image was there already before, but I could change the reading of the image and how the audience saw that image, that was, to me, my most radical material. And after that, I was asked to do a presentation, and I was working kind of like figuring out like what Instagram was. And I was doing this research, and then they asked me to the exhibition, also very important to say, the exhibition was themed clowns, as in it was about clowns. And then I sent them this picture as to use as the poster for the work. And then they said like, yeah, but it's about clowns. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, so maybe just use this image. And to the people that might want to know, these are curators and famous artists and important people in the art world. And to me, it was like quite strange that they were seeking this kind of validation on this commercial medium, right? So there was like this commercial hip medium, and they were seeking this kind of validation, like a direct contact to the audience. Well, they already had all these institutional relationships in place. So they already had like an institutional reception or like acknowledgement within this hierarchical art system. But then there's still this kind of, there was this, it like, to me, it seemed strange to seek or to confirm this kind of like importance within a kind of social medium. And so I thought like, how can I work with that? Like, so how can I talk about this? So there's problematic aspects too, like, you know, artists that were living on the other side of the firewall, of the Chinese firewall, were partaking in the medium, were actually somewhat contributing to a, you know, a kind of escape from what was held behind that firewall. But there were also just artists like and galleries just celebrating a kind of like almost like self-inflicted popularity. Art collectors like photographing themselves in front of the artworks. And then after a while, I was in a talk, and as an internet, like using the internet a lot, there was like a person, like somebody asked me like how many visitors my work had gotten, and like how many visitors or how many clicks my work had gotten. And after a while, I got so weirded out by that question, because then I realized that this is now actually, at that time, that picture had become the most liked picture. And then I thought like, why do we have to discuss like how many likes something has gotten, or how many likes I would have gotten for a particular work or whatever, if basically that means if I'm taking that as an argument, I would have to compete with this. So I would have to take this image. I don't want to critique the image at all. The only thing is that like, this is not just the image. This is a person from a certain type of position that would then acquire all these likes, and then takes this image that I personally don't find interesting, but then that does become the most liked image. And therefore, if you would use that argument, perhaps even a very relevant image. And it had become even a really relevant image. So then I thought like, okay, so if that happens, and if you can design that, like if you can sculpt that, what happens with that? Because then at the same time, there's a possibility of buying likes or buying an audience, or like audience in a different way. Can you then bypass this whole idea of like a relevant image by creating something that you would think is relevant, but actually just creating relevance in a different way, but just maybe perhaps directly creating the audience? And so I went into looking and like purchasing Instagram followers. So this is, for example, a person, Gondar 55. He says a mechanical engineer, 29 years old, graduated from ITM in 2007. It might be that originally this person graduated from MIT, but there was an algorithm making these type of bots that like fumbled up the letters, so they would induce mistakes, so the original writers of their bios wouldn't be able to find them. But that to me released some kind of beautiful concrete poetry, which John Lennon is one of my all-time favorites. And John Lennon writes, mind you, this, I think this is really beautiful. I'll prove to the world that I would ecom somhin important to they ned someday. So, you know, anyway, but then looking at all these people, the Darset says, I love so much Justin Bieber. I think this is probably Justin Bieber. There's all these different images, and they kept on going. Like I could just buy them and they kept on going. And these became works. These became artworks. These became kind of found pieces again. Like somebody had made them to comply to the rules and standards of Instagram. But if I viewed them from this different perspective as like this kind of concrete poetry with this found photography and like people that are images that were obviously not related with different types of people. Like if you see this image, for example, there's like a laptop, there's like some kind of, anyway, I can't even interpret it. Like it's very unrelated, but of course, like you see that there's only a few images. Anyway, so recently I started to make, because the way that you buy these things, actually you buy these followers now, currently, you can actually also buy them according to country. So you buy Russian followers, American followers, British followers, and you buy them, for example, female or male, and there's a value difference in these followers. And I think this became very interesting to me too, like how is this, you know, what decides on the value? Like sometimes a female follower is more expensive, sometimes a male follower is more expensive. But it's quite clear that actually more Western countries, and specifically America, had their followers more expensive. There was more money to be made. And there was actually a situation that I was buying American followers from a supplier in India who had created American accounts for particular values. So they already were years old, they had like tons of content. But, you know, they were made in India. They were just like somebody had studied the culture, could make bots that really looked real as Americans, but they were themselves in India. And then an account like that could be sold for somewhere between like $30 to $50, like a really well-made account, American account. And I mean, if it's super well made, but like, and their own account, like an Indian account, would never be worth more than $1, would be maybe 50 cents. So there's this really strange relationship between the value of an artificial account. And of course, this copied kind of, well, colonial relationships. And to me, this is kind of, and within the post-colonial time. So I think, anyway, this became like another field where it was like, oh, this is the strange reflection of ourselves within this kind of world. And I'm participating in that too, right? Like I'm complicit. I'm complicit by using that kind of medium. So by just using that medium as like just to enhance my image or think that I would become more relevant because I have more likes, I'm also like participating within this kind of intent, like this weirdly corrupt system of like valuing identities. And a company that knows like which identity they make more money off of and which is more valuable to them. So here you see like these banners that I've been making. So for example, this is a Russian account, but the other side is the male Russian account. And then you even see that they're just like their username is just a bunch of letters. And they've just even posted the same image the whole time. Like it's just, they don't even care anymore. Persian Iranian, Brazilian, and then the American, of course, pizza, dogs. But looking at these earlier images, I was also, you know, fascinated with this kind of like mechanical addition to this mechanical depiction. So Instagram at that time still had the forced square format. So they were cropping off images to comply to the square format. But if you, as a user, you would look, of course, but like if you didn't care about the account that you were making, then you just crop off people's heads. So imagine that you would take this picture of you and a friend, and then you would post it to social media, and you would just crop half a head off. It would be kind of yeah, it wouldn't be so cool. Or if you would have this tag as reminiscence, so you're reminiscing about your time in the army, then you would also not crop the head of one of your fellow recruits, or this, for example. Anyway, so this happens all the time. I also didn't know this is a hashtag marathon with a person with a snowboard. I still want to find a solution like how you can snowboard a marathon. Like probably it's like snowboarding for a really, really long time instead of that designated amount of distance. Anyway, so going back to these clowns and thinking like, okay, so how do I incorporate them into the system, this validation they're seeking? You know, so this Klaus Wiesenbach did very inspirational shows and very beautiful shows and beautiful institutions and all of that. But the relationship to that medium I've still found weird. So 69,000 something. So I decided to just like boost him a little bit, like help him a little bit. So I bought him a bunch of followers. So I made it a 100K, you know. And I saw this other young aspiring artist, you know, very quite unknown, like nobody really, you know, it's kind of strange that he ironically put like official Jeff Koons. But anyway, he still wanted to find this kind of online audience, needed some help. So I gave him 100,000. So it'd at least be equal with Klaus Wiesenbach. Jerry Saltz was a critic, also didn't have that much, so I gave him 100K. Ai Weiwei, I talked about before, I also gave him 100K. Hans-Ulrich Obrist, who was actually, you know, had 98,000 followers already, so he was quite close to the 100,000. So he was the cheapest for me because I had to buy all these. So in the end, I bought, what was it? 3.5 million Instagram followers for $5,000. And they were all distributed over a couple of weeks. And all these people, of course, like were freaked out because their phone was like giving them updates all the time that they had new followers. Anyway, and then I'll speed this up a little bit because it was supposed to be half an hour. And then there was an article in the New York Times, and I had been on the phone with the journalist, and they were kind of interested, and I was explaining the project. In the end, they didn't discuss the project in the article, which is fine, but they did mention Ai Weiwei and like a bunch of other people that I bought likes for, and they had mentioned them with the amount of followers they had. So they, for example, said Ai Weiwei, who has 125,000 followers. And then actually, because I said 100,000, that I gave everybody 100,000, but actually the people that bought the likes from actually gave slightly too much. So they actually, you know, Ai Weiwei ended up with like 120,000. So then having 123,000, I was like, and then that being in the New York Times as a kind of validation for how important this person was, and them already knowing that I had bought about like 30 to 40% of those numbers to manipulate that. To me, this was like my understanding of like truth and fact finding within journalism just crumbled. Like I was just thinking like, so this just means nothing. Like they just use these numbers to validate somebody for this article, and it was just meant to be this Instagram promo thing, and it's just this giant company, and they just don't care about like this whole industrial system of all these fake likes and all these bots and these valued account or like these valued identities, whatever. So I thought I should be way more dramatic, and this is where the whole idea of like army came from. You know, like if I could buy these identities, I could buy these audience members. What if I would craft them and they would become the material themselves, like the identities. And just so the images that we saw wouldn't just be the found images, but I would have appropriated them, or I would have put them there. So I would have crafted identities, and the identities actually became the artwork. And then this idea of like an army as like a dramatic gesture to fight this kind of system of quantified capital, and like how we were comparing quantified capital, and like how I could sit in the bathroom and think like this person has more friends and I want to be as relevant as that person, and I'm afraid to die alone, irrelevant, and like nobody listening to me, and like just because this other friend who's like actually not as nice as me has like 500 more followers. These kind of feelings I didn't want, like I didn't want to have like encouraged, and I felt like I should fight with like these kind of dramatic gestures. So starting on an army, and there's like all these systems, like you can make PVAs, like phone verified accounts. And I started to make all these accounts, and actually I found the people that helped me make them. Like these are like, hold on. Yeah. These are like made in the same countries where a lot of these profiles are made. So this was made in between Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the Philippines. And they're starting to post these kind of like German, a friend of mine wrote this essay, actually, German essay on the meaning of identity in social media times. And again, this was validated with a kind of news article where to me it was great because it says Facebook fake army launched by artists. And then I thought like, is there more fake things I can do? Like, is there more things that don't necessarily need to be real, but they could still be validated by the system? And within the article, actually, this is important because it's the 10th of November 2015. So this is in the run up to the 2016 election. So this was already coming up. And I think to me, it was quite important to figure out like how that would take place. And of course, like, and how you could warn against a system that would potentially be compromised. And it would be compromised because I saw how easy it was for people to make fake accounts, to make fake armies, to design entire populations that would support their opinion and make them popular on social media. And of course, this afterwards has happened, and it's become abundantly clear, even be it Cambridge Analytica to the American elections to Brexit or anything. So I think it was kind of strange to see this project where I had dubbed it the possibility of an army, because I had actually created this army, but it was very complicated for me to do something with it. So it had been as if I had created a weapon, but I didn't fire it. I was too ethically involved to fire the actual weapon that I created. I just wanted to show the fact that you could make a weapon, but I didn't fire it, only to find out later that people had just been firing it everywhere. This is this gun that I had crafted just for my living room with like the small artistic budget, was being made on large national scale, like on large nation state scales, and was being fired everywhere. So how do I relate to that as an artist? Like, how do I take position in that? Is it just a symbolic reference? Like, we made this as a kind of sculpture, as a kind of social sculpture. So I did these kind of different things with it. For example, I bought all the SIM cards that I could find through all these steps, like how these bots were made. And a lot of these bots were made by actually phone verified account, which is actually sending a text message to a SIM card, then you copying the code and therefore giving access to the account. So you're verified. So you're verified to have a phone. So you're verified to be an identity. So if you want to do that on a large scale with thousands, you need thousands of SIM cards. And I'd found where these people left these SIM cards because certain people wanted to get the gold out of the SIM cards. And I'd managed to buy all these SIM cards. So I had bags, and I still have bags and bags of these SIM cards that I could actually put into a phone, and I could see a phone number, and I could type in the phone number on Facebook and find some kind of Florida person, and I would find Trump voters. So this became kind of interesting to see all of that evidence just there, just like kind of on the market. Like I could just buy these SIM cards. And then I put them in a mirror in this work. And then actually the people that would document themselves, like photograph the mirror, so therefore they also photograph themselves, would get all these automated well, compliments, basically. You would get these comments. So I found out, like, because I found out all these other people that were working in this dominion with these fake armies, people were getting these kind of like you could automate these kind of compliments. And I made more works with these SIM cards, but then I decided, like, okay, so I should, now I'm over time, I should actually involve myself a little bit more. And I was in the US at that time. I was doing a residency at the ISCP in New York, where I also actually did a great project with Penelope. Penelope did this Gowanus warehouse thing there, which was really, 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 really cool. And I was allowed to do something there too. But at this time, I was also writing these kind of poems, and I actually decided to have these bots that I actually weren't my own bots anymore, because it's really expensive to keep this army activated and alive. I had actually found all these other active armies, and I could just use them because I gifted my army that whatever was left, like most of them were actually killed off because I published all their names, and there had been like a lot of media attention for it. But then, so I was starting to write these poems that I posted. So for example, this is an image on the Department of Homeland Security, and I could contextualize that image and then kind of reframe that image by this poem. And I would read these poems, and there would be communal readings. I actually did a beautiful report, like I thought it went really well in a photographer's gallery. So for example, this is like the page of the Customs Border Patrol. And so this is the image that I then took. Could you actually hear my voice reading there? Because there was a soundtrack to this video and it didn't come through. Okay, cool. So it says marking down a deeper, let me see if I can just start this again. No, that will take too long. Let's do this one. So for example, this is on the European Council Instagram account. And let's see if it rolls. As one we come here to speak, sentiment repeated, strong and bleak. Packets received, copied, sent, love borrowed, bought and lent. Crafted for pleasure, not consent. We are anyone, our liking shall be done. You can be like everyone. Confirmation bias for all to taste. Join us in our mindful haste. Parents by proxy command us. A phantom communities will be the gregarious. Their bubbles burst by alien preference. No reason forward in our hands. We are anyone, our liking shall be done. We can be like everyone. Bodiless profiles tailor-made to fit the situation owns, dark yet lit. Replicants bathe and fluff the crowd, engineered with what is still allowed. Concerning your concern, we are anyone. Your liking, our liking shall be done. You can be like everyone. Anyway, that poem continues for a while, but I'm already kind of over time. So they're online, of course, but I'm also, it was also kind of strange because afterwards I realized that there's probably a social media intern working at the European Council that was like sitting in the bathroom, and suddenly their phone was like alerted with like 200 comments on a single picture, and then they read all the comments, and then it was like this poem that rhymed, like the 200 different people responded to their image, and like if they read the comments in line, it rhymed. So I thought it was really, you know, basically just written for one person, probably like social media intern of these institutions. This is another mirror piece that actually was called Brigading Conceit. There was also in the photographers gallery, and there's, if you follow the hashtag, you actually see that people are documenting the work. So they actually make an image of themselves. When they make an image, then they create the networked image. So I basically induce the networked image, and they do that because then they get 666 likes automatically from one of the standing armies. I did it in other works that, for example, this is a photo board that I had in an exhibition. And if you actually participated in that and you uploaded that, you would actually get a poem by like one of the armies, and they would all respond line by line to the image that you then created. So this is actually the last image of the slide. So now I'll just very briefly mention like what was mentioned before is that during the time this whole army thing came along, and when I was creating this, I spoke to people, and very often it happened to people that they said like, I'm so sick of all this stuff, I want to give up my account. Can't I just give my account to you? Can't I just be a part of your army? And very often I said like, well, just give me your passwords, and it means like I can just do anything with your account. And like very often people were like, oh yeah, that's maybe problematic. So the only possible option there is like either me negotiating with what I was allowed to do with their accounts, or I would ask them to do something with the account. And this is something that came forward now, and that we tried to figure out like if there's if there's a way that we could induce, like, not that I want to ask everybody to buy a specific share of GameStop or participate in some kind of other financial meme, but I would maybe see if you can make a collaborative gesture by actually everybody that has an Instagram account and would want to participate, actually do some exercises like how you would run an army, like an online army like this. How would you do a coordinated kind of commenting effort? So you could sit online, like you could sit in the same room, like a kind of internet brigade, like a troll brigade or a troll farm. But of course, like you can also be in a Zoom room during COVID measures. And then I thought like it would be interesting to maybe even do these exercises. Like, how do you train that you do it in turn? Like, how would you get an audience to comment in turn? So this is the next chapter that we're going into, to see if we can close this whole thing with some exercises. And I think therefore I stop my share now. And we have these exercises. Oh, funny, I see people now. It's the first time I'm seeing people around. It's nice. I'm seeing friends. Hi, friends. So basically we have it's very simple thing. So there's an Excel link that will be posted, and maybe that will show up too, but like I don't know if people are already yeah, so there's an Excel or like a Google Sheet, and in that you can post if you want to collaborate, or if you want to be recruited for this potential army, or at least for these exercises that are coming up, post your Instagram handle. Nobody will get to your Instagram handle. You will just be asked to comment certain things at a certain time, and there won't be any racist slurs or horrible things happening. It will stay between the lines. It's basically just an exercise to see how that would work. So there's a number, and if you have that link, like, which is probably in the chat by now. Yeah.
Yes,
so
it is in the chat already.
Yeah, cool. So if you can, I see a bunch of people copying their thing. So if you see that somebody is posting their Instagram handle there already, then choose another field. So in the end, I want to have like a complete list of different people. So there's a maximum of 40. That is kind of like a extreme if that would work, if we'd find 40, but even if we just have a few, that would be really nice. And then we use this Excel sheet or Google Sheet. We'll use this sheet to basically coordinate the tasks. So the tasks will be then posted behind every task that will be done, will be posted behind your name. And where on the top line of the Excel sheet, so for example, now it says recruit number and recruit's Instagram handle. In column number C, totally on the top, there will be a link, and that will be a link to the actual Instagram image that will seek to kind of have exercises. We'll have exercises to seek if we can change the reception of that image, or if we can coordinate our comments. And again, this is not like it's not like I'm trying to already achieve a goal. This is basically just an exercise of like how this would work. This is cool. We're already up to in the 20s. So maybe it's while this is going on and you take your time for it, I don't know if there were.
In the meantime, maybe Constant, I'll pass you. There was maybe one question throughout your talk that I can pass on right now. I mean, I think you already talked a lot about how the different kind of bots are made, but somebody was asking if these bots are, if these accounts are real, I think. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit on the different kinds of accounts, if that's something that is interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. There's, for example, so you can have, there's phone verified accounts that are actually verified with this text message to a SIM card. But there's also aged accounts, which basically means that they're a couple of years old, which also makes it harder for Instagram to delete them. Then you have seasoned accounts. And seasoned are actually the accounts that have content on them. So preferably you have a phone verified account that is seasoned and aged, and therefore it has like a certain amount of friends. It already has like a certain durability. A lot of these bots that I was using at that time even had like an option to generate kind of random human behavior. So they would actually look at like other things that were popular around that area, or that were popular in general on Instagram, and they would follow them. So this is, for example, also why a lot of famous people always had a lot of bots, like not necessarily because they bought them, but because bots were just kind of randomly following Justin Bieber or other people just because they needed to look human, and they were copying other human behavior, dominant human behavior. So in that sense, this, of course, you could see as like not real, but the whole thing, of course, happened like when, for example, I was running this army and setting this up. A lot of the automated gestures by software would be easily detected. So there would be algorithms by Instagram or Facebook that would find this type of behavior. So in these lower wage countries, people would very often decide like, we'll just do it with like human labor to make it look more human, which was kind of weird because that induced the kind of other kind of awful labor relationship again. But it was interesting to see. And then there's a full other class of accounts, which is, I've only heard it referred to as stealth accounts. And these can be hacked or real accounts, of which actually people gave the passwords away for another reason. So for example, there's websites where where you would say like you can get free likes, or you can get free friends, or whatever, you can get more popular if you give us your password and username, which basically means that then afterwards the person who is running this website can then use that account. So I've been using these accounts too. Like I've been using these types of accounts where actually if you click on the person, they're actually just real people, and they just have a story they posted today. And yeah.
Thanks.
So we're up to 25. That's good.
Yeah, there's more than 60 of you here, so don't be shy. We'll give you another couple of minutes if you want to join. Maybe in the meantime, I have one last question from my side while we wait the last minute, because I thought it was interesting that you mentioned honesty quite a lot, especially at the beginning of your talk. You know, like
I'm raising a child. I think that's what's happening. Yes.
What happened to this honest footage that you saw at the beginning of your works compared to the images that you're looking at right now?
Yeah. But this is like, this whole work is fed by disgust. You know, none of this stuff is honest anymore. You know, like that's the weird thing. Like with this whole medium, I became very aware that as soon as I was seeing something, I was already thinking like, is this an email? Is this an Instagram post? Is this a Twitter post? Is this like, you know, an image for my family app group? Is this like a direct message to my partner? Like immediately, like pom 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 pom. It's didn't have that kind of honest alibi anymore. Like it was immediately like a message within it, and this kind of implicit kind of communication within these images. And then all this implicit messaging within that communication being so influenced by this commercial intent of like just installing this fear into you of being left alone. To me, yeah, it's the total. I find it very damaging and horrible. So, yeah, this whole honesty is I'm seeking it again. I'm still seeking. It's maybe, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm about to close the spreadsheet. So, okay, one last participant.
What's happening with all these colors, though? All these colors are people that just they're doubting to fill in a name, maybe
Lurking. So
also, mind you, I'm not like, besides the fact that we'll do these experiments and we'll do these things, if you're not further interested like in any contact about this, we won't like reach out or use any of these names for anything, any other purposes.
So I'm closing the spreadsheet now to only view only. Okay.
Okay, cool. So can you post the first assignment? So we start with that very, very basic assignment. So this is, you know, like just because basically we just do a training exercise, like if you buy comments and if you want to actually interact with something and you want to make a point as a group, it's quite important to actually know how to make the point and how to do that build up. You can't just like randomly scream arguments. So you actually need to build something up. So in these services and in these bot armies, one of the most sought after for me personally features is that you can decide who runs and who speaks in turn. So which comment is posted when. So we'll have that first with these numbers. And actually, so we'll get to number 26. So number 26 is basically the final number, but that means that the first person, or the name is first, Stella Barak, would post the actual comment, which is just 0001. So that's the whole content of the comment. So the next person then, Bohu, would post 0002. So the Instagram URL is on top. So if you've been in the, oh, Rosa wants to take part. You're too late, Rosa. There was like, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this, the curators will make an exception. Oh, you added yourself. I was deleted. Anyway, so you can, in the Excel list, if you still have it, go to the Instagram link. You can also illegally participate by being the final number. You can just assign yourself number 28 if you still have the Instagram link, Rosa. So this is nice. So can we maybe go to that Instagram thing already and see if anybody started, if the 001 already popped up. Oh, this is another image actually. Oh no, this is the right image. Sorry, this is just, I've been seeing this image today in other contexts. Number 17. Number 17 is there already. Number 17 didn't wait for number 16, number 15, number 14, number 13, number 12, number 11, number 10, all of these people they didn't wait for. Anyway, so maybe if you can delete that comment and then wait for the people before you to comment there. Again, this is an exercise quite important to see if we can figure this out as a group. No problem if we can't manage. It will just be hilarious. So because I've been up all night designing the next assignment, thinking like what would be conceptually really cool to do an assignment. There's references to Pinocchio, all of these things. Anyway, so let's see if we can start with 0001. If that could be the very first comment we see and we can manage within this field. Oh my God. So this means we can move on to 002. This is actually exciting. This is such a social experiment. Oh my God. We're doing this. Well, so we can move on to 003 right now. I feel like I'm watching looking at Bitcoin or something. This is beautiful. 003. Can we see 003? Oh, there's a certain former colleague. There's a certain former colleague who's dropping the ball right now, I think. Can't fire her anymore. So bad. So I'm so sad I can't hear anybody laughing. Like everybody's just like kind of like violently mutes themselves. And I can just tell jokes and cry. So okay, so there's Katrina pulled through. Oh, sorry. Indexification pulled through. So we can move on to 004. Also, I wonder if people are refreshing the image themselves or if they're just like doing the lazy option of watching this stream. And then, oh, we're there, number 4. Oh, I think this is actually one of the nicest things I've ever done in my life. As in like oh my God, this is the sheer pleasure and the dopamine shots I'm getting from seeing 0005 right there. I didn't see this coming. This would be so exciting. Simple coordination and it becomes beautiful already.
In the meantime, I have another question coming from the Twitch chat, and Twitch friends, no, we cannot send it in Twitch, the link, I'm sorry. The question is, how do you deal with the controls performed by Instagram, which declassifies profiles with big amounts of fake followers?
I don't feel like I have to deal with that. As in, I think when at the time I did the performance, that was 2014, I think. But still, I'm bad in these dates. I think it was 2014. The whole shadow banning system was different at that time. So I do not do this follower bombing, and I have not done that afterwards. Basically what now happens is like if this, for example, if this image was posted live, so for example, there was an exhibition in Leeuwarden. I'll tell you a nice anecdote in the meantime while we wait. We're at number 9 already. This is amazing, people. This is really like, I'm really, really surprised. Oh, is there a change of, oh, yeah, I think there's also a way of sorting comments sometimes, like maybe a certain comment is it the most recent comment? Anyway, so the follower bombing, I haven't done like, so follower bombing being just giving people a bunch of followers. So I have been, I guess, kind of, I didn't want to offend people that time or anymore, because I think the performance, also the people that were in the performance, many of the artists were actually really quite offended. So there was a gallerist there that actually tried to call Instagram, like on the phone, and afterwards contacted this magazine who had published an article on published actually my essay on this whole thing, and then asked if anybody could stop these followers being added to their account, because the gallery couldn't see the actual interested collectors anymore. So they were kind of upset with that, and there were other artists that were really, really, really upset that they couldn't see their metrics anymore. And this was already 2014, and I thought it was actually kind of funny. And I was happy that there were other artists that actually found it really hilarious too. These artists are still relevant today and still nice people. by now, and the works that I do now is actually the people that self-induce. So for example, today, yeah, this was the anecdote I wanted to share, is that I had this solo show in the Fries Museum here in the Netherlands. And that was like, from the 4 months it was open, it was like closed 3.5 months due to Corona measures. And today, my mom actually visited. My mom managed to call the museum. I couldn't convince the museum. I haven't even seen it myself. And my mom called the museum and security opened the museum for my mom. And I said, like, what's happening? Like, I couldn't even do the show, see the show. And then the curator said, like, moms have privileges. So I thought that was kind of funny. So my mom went in there and she took my sister. And then my sister took a selfie with my work and uploaded it to Instagram. So if you actually go to brigading_conceit, you see my sister. And there, my sister basically, because she posted that image and to use that hashtag, she induced the bot that I programmed to give her 666 likes. So it's much more in a measure of yeah, request right now. So we're on 11, 12. Oh, Maria Laura is there.
Josie asks, how did you manage to create this comment poem? Josie,
yeah, sorry.
No, maybe she wanted to be a bit more specific. I don't know.
Maria Laura pulled through. Oh, thanks, Maria Laura. Well, basically, we're. I think this whole part of the talk is about that. So how I did that. The only thing is that this part that we're doing now, it would be automated. So basically, it would be automated that there's accounts that somebody else manages and can log into, and it's just more difficult. We're all on different internet connections. So if this is managed from one place, you have to imagine that there's like a server that manages all these different internet connections, and it can actually log into an internet connection like a proxy, log into that, log into an Instagram account, go to the URL, post that comment, then log out, go out of that proxy connection, go into a new proxy connection, so a new internet connection, because if they're all coming from the same internet connection, Instagram's going to say, this looks shady. Then basically it's just automating what we're doing now. We're just doing the yeah we have to delete the media, the domain Carmen. Yes, thanks. It's hilarious. Yeah, okay. Sorry for enjoying. I have to apologize for enjoying this so much. I think this is I didn't see this coming. People making virus jokes in the chat, it's great. Yeah, so if there's more questions, there's like, this would be the time, and otherwise we just go into like a very long stream and see which recruits are like have the biggest attention span to sit through this whole thing.
Yeah, I think number 14, perfectly social, maybe is not aware that it's his or her turn.
So people commenting about the order, I've been told that in incognito mode, the order is restored, if that helps.
That's true, actually, yeah.
Yeah, thank you to whoever has given us the advice about the incognito mode.
Actually, it was from Anna, so it's the same person who posted before everyone else. I think she redeemed herself by telling us about this. Thank you.
This is great. But maybe I could say something about the technicality, because I see a lot of people, like there's a lot of people wondering around about this too. But actually, there's just wondering if I should share my screen and show like how that would happen. Just do it live, because I think this is going to take too long to pass through all the things, like all the exercises.
And I think number 14 will now be punished by us.
Let's say slashed. So let's see if I can maybe share the screen again. And I'll just briefly take over and then we type in. So if everybody can still, like, especially the next couple of numbers, can still keep going and figure out like what their line is. If you have the URL, just I keep refreshing it once in a while and see if your number is coming up. I think so. Hopefully you see this website now, like me scrolling up and down. Yes, thanks, Rosa. You were the most visual confirmation is very important to me. So this is, for example, one of the many social media platforms, or like social media, I don't even remember what it's for, but it was for. So I don't know if you see the Zoom video in there too. So if you go here, you actually see YouTube views, YouTube AdWord views. This is all the stuff I can buy. So this is like from one of the people that I work with, but there's a bunch of these. So this is all the stuff I can buy. So here, for example, you see Instagram likes, real, mixed quality and bot, slow, targeted, and real. So for example, if you look at like targeted and real, see worldwide in Europe, Ukraine mostly, male mostly, female mostly. So you have like a kind of division between male and female. Instagram likes targeted. Here, for example, you see Arab, which I think is also kind of quite crude, Arab, but I guess it's a language. Chinese, Indonesia, Russian. So you have like all these different divisions of like where you can buy followers from. Indian, Russian, Turkish, real Turkish. So that means that these are probably these stealth accounts that I managed, or I spoke about earlier. So if you actually buy that, if you go to the comments, you can actually buy custom comments too. So you can actually purchase, in this instance, you can purchase custom Italian comments. So that basically means that there's Italian people that will be posting these. And then basically I can go to a poem. Or let's see. So I actually start to post one of the things that I prepared for later, but I think if we're going through everything, it will take forever. So let's see which custom comments. I think the S one was good. Custom comments, and so I tried a lot of these, and I see which one was in line, and I think this was the one. So I posted a piece of text here. So, and actually selected the text from an article of like all the reasonings behind why lying is bad. So yeah, so this is the text. It's all about lying, and it will cost me $2.40. And then I'll select the Instagram URL. And then submit. And then basically they receive the order, and then after a while let's see. There's this beautiful Boris Johnson image. So do you see the Boris Johnson image now? Oh, yes. Very good. Then I'll come back to that later and see if the comments appear there. So that will take, it says instant, but it will still take a while. But then basically that's the whole procedure that I would have to do. And that means that then in the back end, there's basically a program that is then regurgitating all these accounts or all these things, and is that going into accounts, logging in, going to that URL, then posting that, then going back, and then logging in again. So I'll stop the screen share here because I think it will take a while before this pops up. Yeah. But I'll post this in the chat so people can check it later.
We do have a number 14 now, Constant, if we can continue to follow it.
And do we also have a number 15?
Let me check.
This is very exciting. Oh yeah, I was supposed to comment that the Instagram URL where the poem or where all the arguments to think of why lying is bad will pop up, and an image of Boris Johnson. Which I thought for, you know, there might be a partially British audience, so maybe that would be funny. Is this the most exciting screen walk that you guys did?
By far.
Yes, I knew it.
The Richard Long of Instagram.
So we are waiting for number 16 now.
There's another proposal I would like to make to the curators in this section, because if there's not that many questions, which I think I made that prognosis already that would not happen, but I'm still sad about. But there is an option that we would also now actually just share these share the rest of the tasks after this, and then see if we would be able to conclude them in the coming time.
Sure. Do you want to make all the tasks visible and have them work in parallel?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, let me check one more time.
By the way, on the Twitch chat, more praise is coming for the DVD logo guy.
Oh, thanks. I am DVD guy. This is something I have to keep reminding myself of. I think the best thing happened that when it became a meme, I think 2 years ago or something. I don't remember. I went, like, there was New Year's Eve, and we ended up at a party, and there's like 3 guys like totally on acid, but really, really high on acid at this party. And they came up to me and they were like, "You are DVD guy." And that was like, I think that was like one of the nicest things ever happened to me, that these guys were like so out of their brain, but they recognized me, and they were like so high and happy about it. Anyway, let me see. So I think maybe if we release like task number 1 and 2, because basically, or like number D and E, because what I basically now did is like number F, I basically did like by automation, because we're not gonna go there. We're not gonna make it. It'll take too long. And well, actually release the whole thing, but then maybe number F, we can give number F a color that actually did that. But number G is actually a thing. Let me see, because actually I had this whole thing planned that there's a whole there's a bunch of there's actual troll army of like actual writers waiting to, like, as soon as we would have posted on that image, that they would be writing back to us, and they would give us counter arguments to why lying is a good thing. So you know, there's like a bunch of people. There's actually one person in Jamaica waiting for this, and there's one person in Bangladesh who's like way beyond their bedtime, waiting to comment on this. So I think I might just tell them that we as an audience were too slow and we didn't manage, but I'll tell them to just get back to that URL tomorrow, I think.
So all the tasks are up.
Cool. Okay. So what number are we on now? Because then I'm just thinking, and I would love to have another question, but I'm just wondering if I have it in my...
So I think that we have 15 committed participants.
Recruits?
Yeah. Who did post their numbers on the first task, and we can expect to also do their tasks on the rest of the Instagram images. Again, you can find the links on the spreadsheet that we shared a while ago. So it's been updated with the links and also with letters or words that you can write on.
Yeah, I see it. Cool. 16.
Number 16 showed up.
But it's also because you were saying 15 people, but I have to also say, you know, that it's making a hard time for number 17, 18, 19, you know, maybe number 21 has been waiting for a long time as a really good recruit. You know, I'm just thinking like I want to look at you curators if you think it's worthwhile to sit this one through until we make number 25, if we're going to make it.
A durational performance.
Okay, well, thank you. Number 17, see, number 17 was ready. Oh. See, I think what's happening in the chat is beautiful right now. So Kayla is offering to fill in for Jake, and I think that's very, very, very cool. You know, that's a good recruit there. You know, taking the bullet. Oh, hey, and we moved on to the second task. That's good. AP is slightly fast trigger happy because actually it goes from A to AB, not from A to AP. But yeah, so maybe trigger happy people is hard to work with. You know, also, you know, don't want to get the whole cohort into trouble. What was the? Maybe I should read a book for you guys at the same time. Let's see. No, this is problematic. I only have Dutch books. More books. No, I can't find out.
The young recruits are having some troubles. They're discussing in the chat about the correct message. So just to recap, guys, you have to write in the comments the string or the letters or the numbers that are next to your cell.
I wish I could like, I wish I could, within this medium, I wish I could like you know, a comment, like a comment in the chat. You know, like on Signal or something, you can like it. You can like, I like that contribution. There's like contributions in the chat I really like.
You can read them out loud.
Oh yeah. It's hard being a mercenary. We're not even paid for this. I wanted to like that one. And even that there's a person done already, they completed all the tasks. I also think that's really good. Yeah, not a great recruit. Yeah, because I think that post with the video in the end, that's where there's people waiting to, as soon as somebody makes an argument about why it's a bad thing to lie in their own words, that's when there's like people ready to talk back at us. That was the ultimate test. Oh, previous in the Excel. Just answering the question. Yeah, previous, like in the Excel. So the previous comment that you made. I was expecting you to have trigger fingers, Rosa. Yeah. Oh, there's a group terminated. Yeah, that happens. Yeah, so that text actually in that image is a part of the Pinocchio, where Pinocchio speaks about not being afraid anymore. It's very dear to my heart in trying to become a real human and not being afraid anymore. Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that there's a new number 18. So the original number 18 is not there anymore. There's a new person moved up the list, and there's a new number 18. That happened for, so then basically all the other tasks have also been moved from number 18 onwards.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
I'm wondering, like, the question by a database, how to have the poem in the right order. I'm thinking if that's the same solution as the opening it up in a private session in the browser. I think that was the solution previously, right? To have like the unstructured comments, so the comments are shown as they were posted chronologically.
It did work for a while, the incognito mode, but somehow it's not working anymore.
Ah.
The algorithm is taking over again.
Yeah, see, it's a fight.
I have the feeling that the army is writing a poem in the Zoom chat now.
But actually it's true, because if you're like in incognito mode, but you're still logged in into your account, then that might be the case. But I'm just wondering if you can reach the URL without being logged in, and you can just go to the image. I think so.
I did that for a while, but then it forced me to log in.
Oh yeah.
So it is a fight against the algorithm.
Yeah, but basically you have to say, like, so it's a, you know, yeah, because you can of course also reply to things. That would be the next step, that you actually reply to things, and then you create like a large discussion there, and then the replies could have a structured order. I'm sorry about like causing anxiety, that this thing is causing people anxiety, man. I apologize. I flipped the DVD video though. So it's a pretty dead air right now. It's quite silent. Wow. That the comments are really nice, actually. In the chat, I'm wondering, like, how far are we on the first task? Because I'm excusing Private Stella, because Stella's been doing a very, very good.
We are on number 19 on the first task.
We're stuck on number 19.
Yeah.
So are you still up for the durational performance?
I think that maybe we can start on wrapping up. I mean, we can give it a go for a few minutes more, but there you go.
Well, the thing is also, like, in the time there's left, if there's no more questions, no further debate about, like, what the things that I tried to talk about previously, then, you know, it really just becomes dead air. So then maybe it's nice to see, basically reflect on the fact, like, how this as a human effort actually becomes quite well, it becomes quite a big effort already to do this, and like how these, but I tried to simplify the steps, like how the machine would do it or how it would be programmed. We're up to 20. That's cool. So we're, I think, 24 because one person was kicked out. I think with 24 we're done, although Rosa's in it, so maybe 25.
We're very close on the very first task, just 3 to go. But so far, if I can just say, I think I really enjoyed even the silent moments with the chat ongoing. I'm sorry for the people on the live stream who could not see the Zoom chat, but also, I don't know, I think there was something very
consider
interesting
that.
how, like, human had to come together to negotiate so many things in order to do something that is not the expected behavior or the normative way that we are supposed to use a place like Instagram. So I thought it was very nice to see all this effort somehow, like, and how we had to participate and yeah, discuss and finding who was stuck and not, and how difficult compared to like the promise of automation and even the bots that are supposed to be very efficient and just very fast at dispensing likes and adding whatever words. Maybe we should have put some Enya or something.
I should have had a live band right there. I mean, I'm doubling up myself already, but it's not the music. But so I just checked, and there are some people responding to comments in the last task. So hopefully, some people that posted in the last task will have received a reply or a comment already. But others, let's say that we're not in our writing team, but we're in the kind of something I prepared before writing team. I mean, that was kind of the conclusion, right? So I wanted to actually have this kind of first repetitive step of like, okay, so even what type of effort would it already be to log in, log out, or to program that, but even coordinate that if you want to build up an argument. Or if you have a coordinated effort, how you basically want to, maybe influence a certain opinion, or if you want to do that as a writing team. And with this exercise, it's like slowly going to a letter, like making it more complicated, also making it more cryptic, and then actually coordinate it, like going into a poem, but then actually making this argument, like the kind of steps to come close to having like sharing an argument together, but also actually to embrace the fact that you're actually writing something from another purpose than just solely yourself writing something. I think, of course, what I was always fascinated with is that within these writing teams, or these people that are actively contextualizing news, or like hijacking news, or hijacking existing things and turning it into propaganda, that there's writing teams there that are really smart people that are basically making money by writing context or comments to something that is not necessarily their own opinion, but they are like actively posting that maybe under pseudonyms or other things. And I think this whole process of I'm kind of mesmerized by this idea of like being in that position, almost like speaking about something that you don't necessarily think is true, but you are like commenting and engaging people with that, like on that thing, and like how that must feel. So it's also kind of an exercise in that. It's also this kind of exercise in like imagining you're this person that is like has this task to let's say write an opinion that you don't necessarily have yourself, but you are just hired to have or to express.
In fact, Camila on the chat is saying that she got a comment response from a profile that has 0 posts and 1 follower.
Yeah, that's probably one. Budget was limited. I do have to say, like, that's if you'd be willing to spend way more money and way more time, you might have like profiles with a slightly higher regard.
So I think we already have like, 3 or 4 replies here on this post. Okay.
Okay, I think I'm going to close it off. I think if there's more tasks or if people find a way to complete the task, that's great. If anybody has interest into thinking on this in a further track or like how to do this in a different way, then please reach out. I think there will be some other small actions like this. I really want to thank you as organizers for hosting this experiment. I think it's been really nice as a kind of collaborative effort, although it was this kind of, it becomes this almost like, it became almost like a very, almost meditative experience. I'm very happy that you allowed me to do this, this experiment. And thank you all for participating and also listening to all my talk about the works and the pretensions I have with my works.
Well, thanks a lot from our side as well. Thanks to all the participants. Thank you so much, Constant, for trying something like this and have an experiment on our platform. I think we're very happy to offer our series, especially to try things out. So it was really great to try and see this version that hopefully, might have inspired you for future works, and the audience, of course, to be inspired by your works in the past and this one. You've been a great bunch of recruits, I would say. And it's been, of course, great to see you all participate in the chat. Apart from those two, you know who you are. We are not very proud of you, but we will welcome you back in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to ask you to leave the DVD guy on for the whole 2 weeks until we come back on the 24th of February with Antonio Roberts, who, by the way, was among the audience. So yeah, we just want to invite you to come back in 2 weeks. It would be nice to have you back around here. We have also posted a link to a poll just to know where have you heard about Screenworks and give us some information. You can also find it on screenworks.com/poll. And thank you again. It's been an amazing and great event. It's been really nice to share it with all of you. So I guess that now is the time to do the traditional unmute all to just say goodbye, and we will be shutting down the live stream and shutting down the Zoom meeting. So thank you all and goodbye. Thank you, Constant.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye. See you later.
Bye.
It's amazing.
DVD guy.